Hello and welcome to Signal Shift. Today we are going to be speaking about two of my favorite subjects, which is wellness and travel. Our guest today is Angelina Villa-Clarke. Angelina is a travel journalist based in London. She has over 30 years of experience as a journalist, has visited 60 plus countries, and has contributed to some of the biggest names in media, such as Forbes, The Independent, Evening Standard, Condé Nast Traveler, and more. She began her career at Marie Claire and found herself moving into travel writing for In Britain, the magazine for the British Tourist Authority, and then British Airways, and eventually for many of the biggest media outlets as a freelancer. Now, wellness today is a 2 trillion global industry, says McKinsey. Angelina actually authored the Forbes Wellness Report in 2025, which stated that according to the Global Wellness Institute, wellness trips have grown by 30.2% annually from 2020 to 2022. Angelina has a lens on and deeper insights about wellness travel, where it's headed, what's happening with longevity, with brain health, and topics we often touch on. So for those of us looking in from the outside, a travel journalist's life seems equally adventurous as it is on trend. So today we want to learn more about what Angelina's travels are saying about the future of wellness travel and just other travel trends. Welcome, Angelina. We are so thrilled to be speaking with you today.
Thank you. Thanks for that lovely intro, and thanks for having me. Interestingly, I think I've definitely progressively written more about wellness since the pandemic, which I think saw sort of a seismic shift in people's thinking. So yes, I have been a travel journalist for many years, and I think the biggest sort of changes that I've seen have been probably the last 5 years in the wellness sector, which is now really intrinsic to travel, and you can't really have one without the other in some aspects.
I think it's fascinating. COVID, of course, it was a big immediate impact, but it was really just almost a cultural defining moment since then, for us in so many ways, right? Whether it's work and now travel.
I think there's been nothing like it in sort of our generation, that everyone in the world was going through the same thing, whether you live in a tiny village or a sort of skyscraper. But I guess the sort of the ups, while there were sort of many negatives and awful things that happened, I guess there was a growing awareness of things like mental health and things like a yearning to be in nature. Both of those sort of topics have influenced the wellness industry, and what people want to get from travel.
When we do think about health, you kind of go to physical health immediately, and you're sort of thinking about that. And I do picture at a holiday kind of, okay, there'll be a pickleball court, or people are playing tennis, or you're swimming, but there's the other side of it, which I think is critical, that you spoke to, which is the mental health. And I'm envisioning more of kind of sound baths or meditation. And so what are people doing to focus on their mental health in that realm?
One good place to start is wellness in the past, and also sort of luxury wellness. It literally used to be in most places going to a spa and having a facial or a massage. And now that's definitely changed. And there are two aspects to that. One is sort of tapping into science and new tech around that. And the other is actually turning back to ancient wellness and ancient therapies that our ancestors would have done. Linked in with that is this notion of nature and sort of going back to basics. A lot of places now offer therapies, for instance, within their gardens or their estate, or they take you out into nature. There was actually a report by the Global Wellness Institute that showed that going out for an hour a day in your life adds some X amount of years onto your life span. So that also taps into this sort of topic of longevity, which is a massive buzzword. So a lot of mindful practices, learning how to meditate, learning to switch off. We spend so much time on our gadgets and screens, and it is addictive, and that can lead to things like burnout and exhaustion.
I know agritourism is also so big, kind of speaking about nature, and people wanting to go onto farms and see how people actually farm and cultivate
Yeah,
food and produce. And it's fascinating. But coming back to that storyline again of we are wanting to go back to basics, like you spoke about, these digital interfaces changing the nature of who we are. And I think we're
yeah,
craving that's that question, like, well, who are we as humans, and how are
yeah.
we meant to take up space?
There's this notion of slow travel, which obviously slow food originated in Italy. So it's no longer the formal starched tablecloths and white glove service that people think of when they want luxury. It's more about those experiences you can't necessarily buy. And that literally might mean, yes, it is an expensive wine you're tasting, but you're tasting it in a beautiful field in a rural setting with the grower that's sort of only got 10 cases of this particular wine that you wouldn't be able to find where you live. And it's sort of a simplifying a lifestyle, and but also a tier of elevation about it. So it is, as I said, it is a luxury wine tasting, but it's in maybe a rural setting, or a beautiful sort of garden that, or under the stars, dining under the stars. These type of things are what luxury is turning to now.
We almost reached that peak of the fine dining perfection of Instagram and with aesthetics, and now kind
Yeah,
of we're shifting away from that and wanting more organic things and more natural
yeah,
things and a naturalness. So I see that.
yeah. I think it's like it's a that sort of Japanese notion of wabi sabi, the perfect imperfection. It's about storytelling. It's about finding people and places that, before it would have been, oh, I went to this very posh restaurant and I had 7 courses and everything was exacting. And that's sort of, people are sort of, it's somehow not relaxing. And I think people want to come home and say, I had the most amazing meal, and it was the family recipe. And also they showed us how to cook it the next day. Or we went foraging with the chef in the morning, or fishing. All these sort of hands-on experiences and cultural experiences are important. So I've written a series of trends reports for Forbes, probably for the past 6 or 7 years. And so when you do that and you talk to all these brands, you're really sort of close to what is happening. And that luxury shift has gone from very formalized, very tangible things to almost the intangible. When I started these trends reports, only 1 or 2 people were even sort of thinking ahead. But this year, I think every single major tour operator and company issued a trends report. And I think there's this awareness that people are looking ahead and people want the new, but it has to have grounding and meaning.
You must have experienced and gotten to experience so many amazing places. And I'm sure wellness experiences and resorts and
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, which ones stick out to you? Is there something really extraordinary that you
yeah,
have experienced?
yeah. There's 2. There's one that I went to last year called Raksa, which is in Bangkok. It is very well regarded in the wellness um, industry, but it was just outside the city. It's called the Green Lung of the city. So it's actually on a nature reserve. I mean, but from it you can see the skyscrapers of the city. So it is quite close. It's like a 40-minute drive. And what's interesting about it is that there's basically 3 main hubs. So you sort of, your suite is a standalone little villa. Everyone has one. And it's all been designed around biophilic principles. It's all natural materials. It's all designed around circadian rhythms. So it's all about sort of optimizing your sleep and your rest. The details are exceptional. So they even have tiny covers for the air conditioning lights. And when they come and do your turn down service, they cover those so that your room is totally dark. There is 3 hubs, and one is all about traditional therapies. So it's sort of Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic therapies, Thai massages, nurturing treatments. And then there's another building, and so it might be a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, You might have an infrared therapy. You'll see a doctor and he might prescribe an IV treatment. So that's all in that building. And then there's a fitness, where it looks like a gym, but it's all sort of, again, at this cutting edge of the equipment's sort of, the best of the best. And you have an assessment, and it's very simple assessment. They check your gait, they check how you walk, they do a few weights. So when you get there, you meet different doctors, and then you get an itinerary that basically covers all the disciplines. So you're sort of tapping into amazing nurturing therapies. And then, 2 hours later, you might be seeing somebody because they've detected, you have blood tests. So they might detect something in your blood that needs particular therapy, or, and then the food is also amazing. It's all super, super healthy, but you would never know it. Every meal is a 3-course meal. Lunch is all Thai based, and the evening meals are all Mediterranean. But you're having like lovely soups. The bread is all gluten free, but it's like made with sweet potato or vegetables, or it's really inventive. And also most people are there alone. So yeah, it was all very, very catered to each individual. And then the other place was Kintsugi, it's called, which Kintsugi in Japanese means, if you've got a broken piece of pottery, they fix it with gold.
Yes.
So it's sort of, again, this notion of the imperfection in life. And it's a day spa, although they've just announced actually that they're going to add accommodation this year. It's run by 2 very well-known women in the industry, and the building's pink. It's in downtown Abu Dhabi, so it's actually in a residential area, but it sticks out. It's got a gold sort of design through the outside of the building, and it's like a townhouse. I think there's about 6 floors. It's very beautifully designed, so everything about it is sort of very well thought out, and yeah, it's all vegan food, and that was about sort of looking at longevity and prevention. But those two stick out. Yeah,
Points I want to touch on both, but I think with the first one, it's so, I mean, it's something that I observed, and I think you echoed it back in your experience, but we're wanting both these things. We want the high tech, the high end, and then we want the completely traditional, ancient, organic, the Ayurvedic, and we kind of want, I guess, the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
And, I just wondered, and I know so much about, health now is collecting health data and data and data and data. When it comes to the tech side of it, does some aspect of that work against really what traditional principles are saying, in the sense that, if I have the smartwatch that is alerting me every time, my pressure's up or my heart rate's, does it create a sense of anxiety in how we live? Like, are we at a point of also maybe too much health data, too much of that?
Yeah, it's a really good point, actually, because on the one hand, we are continuously told to switch off, de-stress, yet there's a lot of information out there that can be overwhelming. I mean, I think everyone has to sort of try and navigate that as best as they can, but especially working in the space, you can literally be taking all these different supplements and doing all these different treatments, and it's sort of sometimes counterintuitive. In fact, it's a really good point, because at the Kintsugi, they wanted to showcase everything. Obviously, I'm writing about it. And it's amazing, and I'm super grateful always. But you can almost have too much of a good thing, because you can always become overstimulated, but by too much touch. So sometimes less is definitely more. But I think the best places are those that have an integrative approach to it all. I am actually about to go to a new opening in Kerala in India. It has just opened this month. It's called Tula, and it's 100 million US opening. It's being sort of broached as the best in its field, and its thinking is exactly that. You get there and it's 48 hours of testing before you even start. You have to stay a minimum of 7 days. because it's, again, extremely bespoke, but they have got sort of all traditional healers and wellness people, but also all the tech that you would want. So it completely depends on what you are looking for as a person. Their big thing is when you go home is to learn what to do when you're at home, because they're like, yes, you probably will feel great being here. We want you to feel great when you're at home. So it's good, because it's definitely a world of two halves at the minute. There's this sort of science, biohacking going on, and then this yearning for something authentic, which is why people are turning to the traditional, you know, and these ancient therapies that we sort of are going back to, that our ancestors would have used. Yeah.
The other question that I had, which is more, I think, like the second place you spoke about, and you know that you've mentioned this thread throughout, I think this big focus with people like Brian Johnson, you know, his whole don't die movement, and we've spoken about that in some, you know, honestly, with I would have considered really extreme 2 years ago, like blood plasma exchanges becoming relatively common now, right? Like people talk about and take part in these therapies. And what have you seen sort of, again, with this drive for regeneration and longevity? What are some of like the really out there intense therapies that people are doing or you've seen or heard of?
I mean, there's obviously the whole, you know, the stem cell therapies, which are not regulated. There's all that going on. And there's things like sort of plasma replacement. I mean, in the Bangkok, in Raksa, you can have a lot of that sort of, and I've sort of shied away from it because I just don't know whether that's for me, really. We want to remain sharp. We want to be more active. I think it's by 2030, 1 in 6 people will be over 60 on the planet. So people are tapping into that. That's like big business, right? So people of 60 plus are much more active than they are 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So that is driving all new itineraries and activities, because the cruise industry, for instance, is traditionally older and is aimed at maybe retired people, but they are more active. They do want more challenges. They want more adventurous travel. So yeah, this thing around aging, and they call it sort of silver traveler, has an impact everywhere. And there are definitely, you know, specific clinics springing up, because Six Senses in Ibiza, they have got their spa is called Rose Bar, and it's all about longevity.
I think the other thing that's really interesting that I'm seeing and it's been a trend, and that's where neuroscience gets brought into different fields. And now I'm picking up in the last year or two this concept of neuro-wellness, right? And neurotourism, and focusing on things that are also good for the brain. And I know in your report you spoke about, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, but a company called Viavi or Viavi. And I'd love to know, like, you know, a little bit about, you know, that, what you know about, I guess, them, or just what you're seeing with the trends with neuro-wellness and this focus on brain health, and some of the tools and gadgets there.
You can now have a scan or some kind of scan in which it tells you the likelihood of where you are at the minute of developing diseases like dementia or Alzheimer's, because at different stages it is preventable or you can delay it. And I think the stats around that are quite shocking. It is a very high percentage of people are likely to get dementia. So 1 in 14 people over 65 are estimated to develop Alzheimer's, 1 in 6 over 80, and roughly 33% of those 85 and older. Globally, it's the most common cause of dementia, Alzheimer's, making up 60 to 80% of cases. So I think there's that sort of fear about sort of how can we prevent this happening, because it's like, you know, is it going to be likely to happen? And also there's more coverage of it, isn't there? It's talked about more. Similar to menopause, I know it's like sort of a bit esoteric to link those two, but just in terms of the industry that has arisen around, the wellness industry that's arisen around menopause and supplements. I did go to a place, it's called Remedy in London, and they this was more about sort of tapping into the neuroscience of de-stressing and just slowing down the brain, and again what we spoke to at the top of the conversation, and it's called It's called a Rebalance Impulse Tech, and it's basically it's a therapy for neuro-relaxing. And it was like a bed that you lay on, you have earphones on, and it's quite strange sort of music, but it works on a deep, it goes sort of cellular, they say. And the bed, you cover yourself, and the bed change. I mean, it has a cover on it, so it's quite close, and it changes color. And you listen to this. Some of it's like a meditation exercise. You can choose different options, but it's. I thought that was really different.
That sounds like a less intrusive poking in my brain.
The other thing I was going to say with that is that the whole sleep industry, which is another sort of the whole notion of, you know, if you can capture good sleep and harness that productive sleep, it has so many health benefits. So again, there are all these sort of sleep programs and retreats. In fact, when I was at Bangkok at Raksa, I did actually follow their sleep program, and one of the articles I wrote, not for Forbes, for a newspaper, was, is it ironic that I'm traveling halfway around the world suffering from jet lag to do a sleep program? But actually it taught, it was all about sort of learning sort of good practices around sleep, and working out why maybe you don't have sleep, and is it hormonal imbalances. So it was very deep, but yeah, I did a sort of tongue-in-cheek thing about it.
It's so true. It's just, again, it's the things that should be natural, that we should have taken care of, that we have started losing. Now we have to kind of go halfway across the world.
I know, how ironic. I know.
Yeah.
And I was sort of on the plane thinking, oh, I feel so, I'm going to get there, and working out my time zones and thinking, oh, this is a nightmare. I've almost missed a night's sleep. And then I'm going there for sleep. It's ironic.
What I find really interesting is, which I think the new place you're going to see in Kerala, kind of the ethos of you got to take it back home.
Yeah.
Is, it's, yeah, you can learn about sleep, but yeah, you got to take that back home. You got to put the phone away. It'll be so interesting to see how wellness places cater to that, to enabling that change for people once they go home, right?
I mean, I'm really aware that I'm privileged that I can do all these amazing things because it's my job, but ordinarily I wouldn't be able to do that. So there's absolutely no point in spending lots of money going somewhere, because you'd only be doing that if you've got a concern to do with your wellness, or you really need that, and then coming home and falling into old habits.
Angelina, thank you so much for being here and sharing all your experiences. And I'm really curious for everybody listening, have you been to any of these resorts? What have your experiences been, or other places on your radar? Please do let us know in the comments. So great to have you, Angelina. Thank you for listening, and we will see you again next week. Bye for now.